everybody, Brandon here, and this is Comic Conversation. If you've been watching, well, anything, superheroes are everywhere. They're on Disney's multiple streaming platforms, Netflix, and Amazon Prime also has their take on superheroes, though not the same way you would imagine. No, they don't have the Justice League or the Avengers, but they have The Boys. And it's super popular. They've already begun filming season 2. It's in production, and I can't be more excited for it. All right, I will admit I haven't finished season 1, but I've been busy. I've got to walk the dog, and I started playing Hollow Knight. That's a really good video game, and oh boy, this isn't a gaming conversation. What do? Look, I feel a lot of pressure, and I don't need to binge every episode all at once, but I do like what I've seen. What I can say that I have read The Boys, and this is a comic conversation, thankfully, so let's get talking about The Boys, the book, and how it was and how it relates to the show, at least what I've seen so far. The Boys was created in 2006 by Garth Ennis and Darick Robertson. It was promoted as Out Preacherin' the Preacher, referencing Ennis's previous work on, well, The Preacher, which also has a show on AMC. But The Boys comes with its own notoriety. If you're familiar with the show and you're checking out this show because of The Boys television show, then you're already aware of its strong sexual content, mature themes, and violence. You know, all those ratings that come up on the TV screen that basically tell you, don't let your kids watch the show. Seriously, man, how many kids have seen Deadpool already? Even before that, I saw kids going to see Kick-Ass. It's called Kick-Ass. Don't bring your kids to the movie called Kick-Ass. But I'm getting off topic, and I'm sorry. But yes, The Boys, the book, comes with its own notoriety, as it was originally published on DC's Wildstorm label until it was abruptly canceled, because DC felt that maybe The Boys wasn't on brand for them. And from there, The Boys went on to Dynamite. But the first 6 issues, that very first story arc, happened while on Wildstorm, and those are the 6 issues we're looking at today. Quick summary, spoilers ahead. Our hero is who we're introduced to. His name is Hughie. He's a young man in love with a young lady named Robin, and they are in Scotland and having a good time when all of a sudden she is hit by the A-Train. Not the A-Train if you're from New York as property of the MTA. The A-Train is the superhero who is actually dressed like the A-Train from the MTA. That's just, it's not a coincidence that he's dressed that way. It just makes sense. But A-Train runs over the young lady. That young lady is dead, and still holding her arms is Hughie. Just, it's disgusting. Disembodiment, just, ooh, it's bad. And that is how we meet Hughie. It is while mourning that Hughie meets Billy Butcher, a man with CIA ties who is running a little group called The Boys, and The Boys keep the supes in check. Well, why would you need to keep the superheroes in check, Brandon? I mean, aren't they great? Aren't they fantastic? The Justice League, the Avengers, the X-Men, they're wonderful. Not here, they're not. They are the heroes, and most of the world believes they're heroes because that is the way that they are portrayed on media, in magazines and television and news. The superheroes are the celebrities, and they are everywhere. Along with being everywhere, they're unregulated, untrained, and 90% of them are contracted to a company called Voight. And Voight has some political aspirations of their own. Voight controls the intellectual property of these superheroes. They control their costumes, they control their perception in media, they control the merchandising that goes out. Comic books exist in this real superhero world, but these comic books are used to make the company money and also let people see a inside look of the adventures of these heroes, except they're much cleaner versions of what actually happens in real life. In real life, these heroes are nasty. In real life, these heroes have some really weird habits and kinks and sometimes they're just terrible people who steal medicine from youth hospitals. Sometimes the heroes behind the masks are jerks. The kings of the jerks are the Seven. The Seven are, this is weird to say, they're the antagonists of the book, but they're the heroes of the people. You know, that's the way the world sees them. They are the Avengers, or more accurately, they're like the Justice League, because that's what the Seven is a play off of. The seven standard people that you would see in the Justice League. And this isn't an exact comparison because I'm not in the right frame of mind to list all the characters and compare them. But if you've seen the cartoon, then you know that there's Aquaman, Flash, Hawkgirl, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, Martian Manhunter. So in this one, you have people like The Deep as Aquaman, or A-Train as the Flash, or the Homelander as Superman, Mauve as Wonder Woman, Black Noir as Batman, and I'm losing it already. But they recently gained a new member, Starlight. And Starlight is not like the other members of the Seven, because she's not a jerk at all. She's actually just a from hometown girl living in a lonely world. I'm sorry, I didn't need to do that. I apologize. But she has aspirations for joining the Seven, and so she succeeded. She's a member now, yay! And she does not exactly have the best welcoming experience. I'll let you read the book to see exactly what's happening. Or if you've seen the show already, then you already know it's kind of like that. Just as Starlight is trying to join the Seven, Hughie is now joining the boys, and his experience is also not the most pleasant. The veil is being lifted. He is seeing behind the curtain. He knows that the superheroes are not these icons of purity that maybe he and the rest of the world thinks it is. It's far more grotesque than that, as this comic basically goes to show. This comic is entirely grotesque, but it's Hughie's experience isn't too wonderful, and often he finds himself going out to the park, and it's strange because he does find himself meeting Starlight, not in costume, and the two of them get to know each other, and it's really funny seeing this relationship form, because you can already kind of maybe see where this is going. This relationship here from two, it's almost like West Side Story or Romeo and Juliet, except instead of the Montagues and the Capulets, you've got the Seven and the boys. And I don't know, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm seeing the seeds, man. The seeds, they're there, and they're gonna sprout. But I mentioned the Seven are the main antagonists, but the comic is just starting, man. You don't start at the top, you gotta work your way up. And so the boys, on their very first little adventure together, they're targeting a smaller group of young heroes called the Teenage Kicks. And they are terrible, and we get to see some of the buffoonery and you know, that adult content I was talking about? Look, hey, it's gonna be difficult to show some of those things from the book, because especially with the Teenage Kicks, because they are nasty, just nasty people. And this volume ends with their confrontation, and it is quite the violent experience. It is Hughie's first time out on a superhero adventure, and someone loses a life. Is it one of the heroes? Well, one of our heroes, the boys, or is it the Teenage Kicks? I'll let you see that one on your own. Despite the gore and despite all of the sex, The Boys is a good book because it's smart. There's a lot to say about the lobbying industry and the participation of corporations and their involvement in government affairs, very much as there are weapons manufacturers who have contracts with the US military. Voight seeks to have similar contracts with superheroes, getting their heroes into the war. Think about how many lives on the US side we could save if we are contracting heroes to, be on the front lines instead. There's money to be made there. War is one of the oldest businesses there is, my friend, and Voight wants a piece of that action, and it's scary because I kind of see some of that happening even now. A little bit, we don't have real superheroes that we can, put into the front lines, but we do see celebrities that are participating in government conversations. Not to say that they shouldn't, but it is eye-opening to see Chris Evans making tweets in reference to Trump quotes or Trump policies. It's interesting to see Mark Ruffalo making tweets about fracking and the environment. It's interesting to see these guys who I mentioned specifically because they kind of are superheroes. We see them in their roles that are on screen, and it seems like to a certain extent we're seeing their on-screen persona become their public persona, and it's really interesting also because our current president is a reality show guy, and we're more familiar with his on-screen antics on TV shows than anything he's ever done prior. So seeing The Boys and seeing The Seven and Voight and their aspirations for these political gains, it's very eye-opening, especially today. An element of the book that you may enjoy that you will not be able to see on the show is that our main protagonists are mostly foreigners. Hughie is Scottish. Billy Butcher is English. Frenchie, the Frenchman, well, he's French. And then the female is Japanese. The only American in the group is Mother's Milk. And together, this group, they make up The Boys, and we're seeing really through Hughie's eyes and Billy's eyes, and it's very interesting seeing an immigrant story, so to speak, and it's taking place in New York. Ennis is actually really good for that. One of the things I enjoyed about The Preacher is that The Preacher is a love letter to Westerns, so to speak, but there's a lot of just American culture in pop culture, I should say, just kind of visible all over The Preacher, from the music that's mentioned to comedians that are referenced, movies that are referenced, celebrities that are referenced, and it still very much feels like a Western, especially when you got villains like the Saint of Killers. That same kind of tone, I still get a bit of that when I read The Boys, except instead of a love letter to America and American pop culture, you're kind of seeing an appreciation for New York. The big city, the lights, how busy it is, and also just like little elements that are beautiful and also maybe a little artificial, like Central Park didn't just grow out like that. That is artificial area, and yet at the same time there's so many stories to tell about how it all came together, some beautiful, some terrible, but it's all part of that New York culture, and it tells the history of almost America in a way. It's as Billy Butcher describes it, New York is like a million times. It's the entire US story just wrapped in one little island. And so I think it's really cool getting little elements like them talking about Central Park or discussing where the best burger joint in New York is, which is a pretty common conversation amongst New Yorkers, because we're always discussing who's got the best burger. And if you're not from New York and you're gonna tell me something like Whataburger, no. Just kidding, Whataburger. I've been there, I've had one. Y'all all right. Am I pronouncing it right though? Is it Whataburger or is it Whataburger? Like, do I separate it? You gotta tell me. I don't know. You could leave comments. the comment box. Don't be mad. Another big theme that goes on in The Boys, and this one might seem like it's obvious, is the depraved behavior of individuals. And I say individuals because it's not just the heroes whose asses the boys are going to kick that are depraved. It is everyone that's depraved. Just about everyone we have come across does something just inhumane and horrible. And to a certain extent, I feel that maybe the book doesn't always age well. There's certain things that may have been done for comedy, because we're out preaching the preacher, and we're gonna show some really messed up images in this book. However, like one scene in particular that's really unimportant, and I don't mind spoiling it for you. There's an annoying dog. The dog is yipping, that annoying yip, and it's really annoying, and it's annoying Hughie as he's trying to grieve, and Billy goes and says, "Want to see a trick?" And he tells his dog, whose name is Terror, to fornicate with the dog. And so Terror goes and fornicates with the annoying dog. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I guess that's dog rape? I don't know. I could not really find the humor in it. I'm sure someone will, but to me, I just kind of, ooh. And I was wondering if I laughed at it when I first read it years ago, and no, like there's some things that I just couldn't really support. But I will say on the positive side, if you can say there's a positive side, is that the behavior, the depraved behavior that I mentioned, is not limited to just the superheroes. Just because the boys are the protagonists does not necessarily make them good guys. They're just the guys that are doing the job. They themselves have tics and corruptions, and they are not perfect, and they engage in behavior that will make you question, why am I rooting for you again? But I think that's maybe one of the good things about this story. It does not try to lie to you and give you a new set of heroes. There are no heroes in The Boys. Depravity and grotesqueness in general isn't just a story element that takes place only in the plot and in the words. We see it. And so Darick Robertson and Tony Avina, kudos to you guys for letting us see it, because it's disgusting sometimes. We see it all. We see butt cheeks, hairy butt cheeks from heroes, but I don't just mean the grotesque nature and the actions. Also, the stature, the builds of the heroes themselves, they look like villains. You kind of get the expectation of what a hero looks like, big chest, standing tall, and we don't get that here. At least, with the Seven we do. The Seven, the Homelander looks like Superman. Black Noir looks like Batman. They look like tough figures, but the Teenage Kicks, all of them look like villains to me, and I think that's a very cool way of showing what to expect from the antagonists of this book. They're the heroes, but they look like villains, and they were drawn and presented in a way for the reader to understand that they are not to be cheered for. But keep in mind the backstories for some of the characters, how all the characters come together is different than the TV show. Keep an open mind. I do think some of the experience that we get in the book does not date particularly well, so there are some flaws, but still enjoyable book. What did you think of the book? If you have read it, tell me what you think about the show. I'm interested in the show. I do need to finish watching. I'm well aware. If you've seen both, tell me, what do you think about the differences, the changes that are made? Do you have a preference? Do you think the show is better? Do you think the book is better? Yo, let's just keep this conversation going. You know how this goes, man. Comment below, like the video, share the video, subscribe to To Be Seen Com, baby. And you can get at me on Twitter. You know that, right? At Comic Convo, at COMICONVO. You can also reach out to me personally at Lewis or Brandon. And if you like the sound of my voice, and if you want to really discuss food, like where the best burger is, check out my podcast, Belly of the Beast, which is available on Spotify and Google Podcasts and where all those podcasts can be found. I am Brandon. Thank you very much. Woo! This has been Comic Conversation.